Perennial Falcon, Season 2, Episode 1. New year, new season, just how it works. I am the navigator, and we are in 2025. I'm running a little late, but I will get on them Monday schedules very soon. So, about me running late. I'm waiting on glasses. It's hard to read. Bear with me, people. I will get the product out. The product being a podcast about something a little more interesting. And I'm still working on diving deep into subjects that not everybody covers. And I hope you like that. And if you do, I need you to like, subscribe, and please leave a comment. Share this with your friends. This is all new to me, and it's going to take time. If I say too much, let me know. It's going to be hard to break that one, people. So, I promised that we were going to get out of mosses, and then I realized I was missing something. I was getting ready to move on to other plants, but I was missing something. Maybe you're missing something too. Has anybody ever thought about those mosses that look more like little trees than moss? Well, they have a name. Their name is Lycopodium. And everybody calls them lycophytes. So, they are a vascular plant. There are over 1,200 species of them. They are the oldest living vascular plant lineage, and they are characterized by their small single-veined leaves called microphyllus. Clubmosses are a prominent member of this group and are named for their cone-like spore-forming structures called strobili, which resemble tiny clubs. Characteristics: microphyllus, single-veined leaves. This is just right off of Wikipedia, people. You can look this up yourself. Why am I covering another moss? They're not technically a moss and they're not technically a fern. There's something in between. They produce spores like a fern and like moss, but they're neither one. And they are some of the mosses that are really popular in Japanese horticulture. They have a place in nature. They look like little pine trees or little palm trees or something different, something in between. They're wonderful. They are also expensive if you're a collector and you're wanting to build a garden. The spores for these plants are a little more pricey. So I'm going to just kind of touch some bases and work into this, and just bear with me. They are from the kingdom Plantae. There's that word. Help me out here. I'm working on this. I'm really working on this, getting rid of this out of my system. And the internet's running a little slow. I am going to the Prince William Wildflower Society, Conserving Wildflowers and Wild Places. It's a great website. I'm going to an article written by Marian Lobstein. Hope I got that correctly. Might be Lobstein. Please let me know if you know the proper pronunciation. Clubmosses, an ancient and interesting group of fern allies. Listen to this. They are an ally of fern. They are the plant that arrives before your ferns can take hold in a natural surrounding. In the midst of winter in northern Virginia, love this setting. It's indeed a joy to see green plants. Many of our ferns and fern allies are evergreen, adding color to our woods. So these are the before conifers. These were around. In ancient times, they were huge. They were the trees. Now, they're little tiny plants. But, Nature changes and adapts. They got smaller as other plants took over. The common club moss is based on premise that at first glance these plants resemble mosses. Mosses are bryophytes and thus non-vascular plants, and because they often have club-like structures that produce spores, club mosses are perennial evergreen plants and before ferns. Isn't this interesting? With numerous small leaves, individual plants and many species connected by horizontal stems that run above ground, runners, or below ground, rhizomes, and actual roots are rather shallow. So it does have roots. It's not a moss. They are vascular plants. They have roots, and they release spores at a life stage that few people see outside of a science lab. Unless you have them in your yard and you're watching them intently, you're never going to see this. Probably at the beginning of a rain. Very, very beginning of a rain. And it's so small that without any proper camera, you're not going to see this happen. So, club mosses are perennial evergreens, plants with numerous small leaves. Individual plants in many species are connected by horizontal stems that run above ground. Those are called runners, or below ground rhizomes. These are communities. If you see one, you're going to see more. They're releasing spores at the life stage. Just want to reiterate this. It needs to be repeated. That few people see. Worldwide, there are 10 to 15 genera and 350 to 400 species of club mosses in northern Virginia counties extending the Blue Ridge Mountains. There are 12 species of club mosses, Lycopodiums. In the past, they were classified as a single genus, Lycopodium, lyco for wolf, podium for foot. But in New Flora, Virginia, and other modern species, these 12 species are now placed in a 6 genera as summarized in a chart they have on the webpage. And I'm going to stop there. I want you to go look up Prince William Wildflower Society and look for Club Mosses, an ancient and interesting group of fern allies by Marion Lobstein. So this will get you to this page. Sometimes it's good to do your own research. Don't trust everything you hear. And just go read about this. Club mosses or lycophytes evolved some 410 million years ago, a very ancient species. So you had your mycelium, broke up the rock and the unpalatable surfaces that even moss couldn't clean. And the mosses and the lichens came in and they broke down the material more. And then eventually the club mosses, the lycophytes, moved in about 410 million years ago. So the neighborhood is growing. That's what we're going to do. We're going to build the ancient neighborhood in modern times. Only plants, perennials that have existed long ago and exist now until we get into just modern species. And I want to build this for you. I want you to see this. Imagine barren, rocky soil. You have water and you have just stuff that nothing sticks to. And then slowly life comes about in the plant world. First with mycelium, not a plant, breaking down and preparing the earth for your mosses, your lichens, and then your club mosses. And we're going to move into the other ones. But right now, that's where you're at. You're starting to see these trees grow maybe 20, 30, 40 feet up in the air. I don't know how tall these got. We weren't there. We don't know. Here it says reaching heights of 100 feet. Can you imagine a club moss 100 foot tall? It's unfathomable. And then we're going to later on we're going to talk about some other stuff, but you can read about that other stuff on this page. So go back to what I said and look at that page. the leafy stage of the plant's life cycle known as the gametophyte, gametophyte. I'm stuck on that pronunciation. So, the stage that produces gametes, which are the eggs, and the sperm. In many species of club moss, the gametophyte stage develops underground, and symbiotic fungi. When I tell you fungi is important, your mycelium network is required for this to happen. And symbiotic fungi provide the nutrition for the stage of the plant, which may persist up to 7 years in a dormant form and take up to 15 years to complete the sexual reproductive stage in this and other species. You gotta think about that. We're building a life group, a life cycle. They are dependent on the mycelium. So every time a building goes up, construction happens, was there something that's been waiting 15 years to live in an ecosystem that just got destroyed? Could that species be lost? We need to be real careful about the first 18 inches of soil when we disturb land. We should take more time to remove, prepare, and establish an area around our developments that's for the natural flora and fauna, the perennials that come back every year that support life. We're tearing this stuff up faster than it's ever going to replace. And I'm not a major eco-terror type person or eco-worry type person or an eco-warrior of any kind. And I'm not going to stand on your porch and preach to you about it. But I'm going to put an earworm in your ear. It takes you 10 seconds with a bulldozer to destroy 18 inches of soil that took 15 years or longer to produce that ecosystem. We need to stop doing this. We need to work with nature, people. Work with nature. So 15 years to complete the sexual reproductive stage of club mosses, lycophytes. This is insane. It took 15 years with the mycelium network, and when you rip up the mycelium network, those connections take years to build. And only the deep connections will survive, and if you go in there and change everything, you may have destroyed an ecosystem irreparably for hundreds of years. So let's start thinking about that. Now, I'm going to go into this a little more. The stage of the plant cycle has both structures. Antheridia, producing flagellated sperm, and Archegonia, producing eggs. The sperm swim through a film of water to fertilize the eggs and develop into multicellular embryos that form the sporocyte, producing this stage of the plant. So club mosses reproduce asexually. They are not that much different from humans. They are your connection to the earth. If you want a spiritual connection to the earth, this is what you need to consider. Club mosses may very well be your spiritual connection to the earth. And if you see them out in nature and you want to have them in your garden, take no more than just a small sample and do your best to reproduce the environment that you took it from. Make sure you have permission to be there. Make sure that you have done what you need to do to properly secure, with permission and preservation intent, and make sure that you reproduce as much as close to the original plant life cycle. You need a sample of the mycelium. You need samples of the leaves. You need samples of everything that came from that environment if you're going to try to reproduce it. And you need to expect this to take time. A small patch may take 30 years to produce. Don't go up ripping up a large patch of area. Don't take large samples. Those things took time, and if your attempts to recreate it are failure, you just killed an ecosystem. You need to be very gentle with this. This is your connection to the earth. So, the runners by special structures called gammae are the groups of cells on the tips of stems that detach and form new plants. So the tips of the stems can produce plants. Maybe that's where we need to take a sample from. But we still need a sample of the soil. We need a sample of the things around. They need to be small samples, but large enough to support the new plant and no more. And we need to really understand lycophytes before we start messing with them. Club mosses are beautiful, but if you don't know how to take care of them, you'll destroy an ecosystem. Human uses of club mosses are numerous for medical, so medicinal uses, dyeing, pyrotechnics, decorative purposes. So how many things are we using these for? Where are these samples coming from? And are we destroying our environment by using them? I hate to say it, but we really need to be careful because greedy companies that make pyrotechnics or your pharmaceuticals or decorations, these companies may be taking more than can be replaced. You need to make sure that whoever's doing this is sustainable, that they understand it doesn't happen quickly. You want a good example? People that's selling compost or manure and they're putting wood chips in it to fill the bag because they can't produce enough, instead of understanding that it's a process that takes time. They let greed take over and they throw a bunch of crap in. Well, they can't be greedy on this. It takes 15 years to produce this ecosystem under the exact conditions. So we really need to stop overuse of plants. It's great that they work for many things for us, but we need to really understand that Native Americans and ancient cultures from around the world have been using these properly for skin ailments and inducing labor and pregnancy and other things of that nature. And they say aphrodisiac. Well, that's been thrown around 1,000 times to kill entire species of creatures. So we really need to be aware not to be doing things. It says urinary tract, diarrhea, digestive problems. Okay, that's great. We need to limit our taking of earth and build things. We need to build. And it says you can also treat wounds. All mosses are good for treating wounds. So maybe if you know there's a moss that grows faster than a lycocyte, maybe you should take that. They can be used directly or as mordant substance to lock in other dyes. So a mordant is a substance used to lock in other dyes in a dyeing process. Natural dyes are great. I agree that we should be using natural dyes, but they need to be sustainably grown. Okay, spores are also very flammable due to their high oil content. Okay, well, something else that's very flammable is canola oil. It's a lot easier to get, And they used to use it in ships and machines to lube stuff, and it shouldn't be in our bodies. So maybe we should be using canola oil instead of lycosites for flammable items inside your pyrotechnics. Come on, a little bit of chemical engineering. I'm sure they can use canola oil for that and quit putting it on our bodies. So, club mosses and spores were once used by pharmacists in the coating of pills. But we have soy-based and other plant-based coatings. We don't have to do this anymore. So if there's anybody out there that's using lycosites to coat their pills, we need to stop that. Okay? And they used to throw them in a fire for a flash of light. That is an absolute waste of a lycosite. Spores ignite with a bright flash of light and were used in flash photography, in stage productions, and fireworks up until the 1950s, and in chemistry labs to produce flashing responses. We need to stop doing that as well. A millisecond of a reaction does not justify 15 years of a life cycle to get it started again. It just doesn't balance out. Okay, so rhizomes and runners were ripped from the ground and used as decorative ropes in greenery. Since club mosses are slow-growing plants, many groups, including VNPS, which I'm not sure who they are. That's Virginia. Conservative. Okay, that's the Virginia Department of Natural stuff there. Probably Virginia National Park Service, I would imagine. But in the 1990s, waged campaigns to discourage this practice. We absolutely do not want to be using something that takes so long to grow and is so important, our connection to the earth, our first bond in reproduction, to make a quick flash. We're killing the teenagers, man. 15 years to grow, and then you pop it up out of the ground, rip out its rhizomes, destroy its soil, destroy the mycelium for a 15-second flash. No. Or to make rope or any of that. None of that is necessary. We have hemp for rope. So let's just use hemp for rope and forget about using our lycosites. So, great article. Again, that's Club Mosses, an ancient and interesting group of fern allies, in quotes, by Marion Lobstein. So I'm just going to kind of look around here and see what else I might have. Read another page. So while we're talking about lycosites, and I'm always talking about mosses, and we're getting ready to move on to some larger plants, and if you know where I'm going, it's not necessary to comment on that. Let it be a surprise for people that don't know. But club moss is some of the oldest fossil records we have. So, fossilized layers of rock, and I have personally taken samples out of the ground when I was a child. I would go out to a hillside and just pick up a rock, and I knew if it was flat and it looked like it had layers, that if I tapped it a couple times, it would probably come apart, and pardon, my mic just dropped. So, didn't mean to drop the mic on you, but we'll drop the mic for lycosites. Sure, why not? I would go up as a child, tap the rock on the ground, and it would separate, and inside was going to be a plant. And a lot of them, I didn't understand what they are. I didn't see what they were back then. And beside seashell fossils, up in the mountains, mind you, up in the mountains, seashells, I saw with my own eyes Now I know what they were. Looked like tiny pine trees. They were lycosites. Some of them looked like large pieces of pine tree, but they were not exactly. They were lycosites. So this article that I'm going to do here is from Earth Sangha, spelled EARTHSANGHA.org /single post /club -moss -ancient -heritage. Great. This organization evidently was founded in 1997. They've got a little picture of just nature happening on their web page. It looks like they have a great big donate button, and it says life in the field, and the web page is very bold. So maybe that's your thing, very bold. Clubmosses, ancient heritage, and I'm not seeing an author, so we're just going to go with this. It says, what is club moss? I really never asked this question until recently. I have seen them frequently in my walks in the woods, but ignored them. After all, they are spore-producing vascular plants, and I was on a seed collecting mission. When I'm out in the field, well, spores act like seeds, but their reproductive system is quite different from that of a seed-bearing plant. Remember, they need both the sperm and the egg to grow like an animal. So, for one thing, you would need tons of spores to germinate. Just a few in the wild. Even if club moss germinates, it will have to go through 2 generations of its life cycle in order to become sexually mature. It's going to have to make those sperms and those eggs, and it's going to have to take, and it says more than a decade, but we know that it's at least 15 years, or up to 15 years. And it's mentioning mosses and some other plants we're going to cover, so if you want to know what those other plants are, then you probably ought to visit this site. And it says he ignored the lower parts, or she that ignored the lower parts of the plant order, and mentions lichens, which I mention every once in a while, and we're going to get into that another time, I'm sure. So I'm just scrolling through here, and I apologize for the ums. I've done a few. I know. Get on to me. Stop me from doing this. Have played as a future true land plant. Of course. Land was inhospitable for life before 500 million years ago. Now, we're not 100% sure. Scientists say that, but we weren't there, and I'm going to say we weren't there. We don't know. But the first plants and the first things to grow are definitely what we're talking about. Fossil records in the ground, coming out of mines, coming out of places we know. I mean, unless the whole place was terraformed and tilled under by aliens, we're pretty accurate. If you don't want to rule that out, that's up to you. But I think they would have better things to do than till all the land on the earth. So, we're going to say, this one says plants first appeared on land about 460 million years ago, and we know that 450 million years ago was the lycosites. So the first plants, bryocytes, the mosses, hornworts and liverworts, and we may visit that part of it too, successfully established themselves on dry land. Until then, it was just green algae floating along coastal edges. Okay, so we know it needs spores. We know it needs mycelium. We know that they have to go through a long process. And I'm going to go on to jump through the page here. It says that's when club mosses popped into view. They are not actually mosses, of course, but they are still one of the earliest land plants. And they're not mosses because of roots. We've established that. Coming soon after bryophytes. For me, it helped that they are definitely macro. Besides, there seems to be only 4 different species of club mosses. Well, we need to update this webpage, don't we? We know that there's at least 12 just in Virginia. Your area may have more. And worldwide, we know there are a lot. And they have not all been discovered. So get out there, see if one's been discovered. Don't disturb it, but record it. That's what I say. I learned that worldwide there are about 1,000 species of club mosses. Again, this website needs updated. I'm going to call you out on that. It may be a good website, but its facts are off. And he says, club mosses are inconspicuous in our local forest, but they can readily be found in small quantities. If you look, you will find them as both small or large clusters, and thanks to creeping roots, all of them are connected by these running roots. Well, yeah, we need to get some facts in this website, but it's nice that how it's written. It's actually a well-written little story about their fascination. So we know that they're perennials, and here's a little note here that says, rainforest that covered most of our land about 300 million years ago, even before dinosaurs appeared. So, you know, a lot of little interesting things they've wrote in here. Okay. So they were like 100 feet tall during the time that plants that eventually became coal, carboniferous plants, existed and became part of the earth. Now, in the Appalachian Mountains, in the coal mines, I heard a story from a miner, and I thought it was very interesting. And this was someone that I knew well, and would not tell a tale. They were a very factual person, and normally they're just working on equipment. They don't see a lot of things, but they went down into a mine. They went deep into a mine to recover a piece of equipment that had stopped, and there was a section of the mine that they called the upside down tree, and the roots were at the top, and what looked like a pine tree was at the bottom. And they estimated this thing to be about 100 feet tall. So, one, it was upside down. Two, it was in coal. And three, the description sounded less like a pine tree and more like a lycosite. So, if you know miners, or if you are a miner, and you've dug down into coal, and you have a story about weird looking trees, and you've ever wanted to talk about a tree in a coal mine, I would love your story in the comments. I'm not fishing just for comments. I'm fishing for facts, for things that people just don't have anywhere to talk about. And I hope by listening to this, and I'm going to make sure that coal miners are tagged in this, that you will understand that what you are experiencing down there when you bring home a piece of a fossil, or you look at the ground and you talk about it, or sometimes you don't talk about it because you're afraid they'll shut down the mine for geologists to go down there and break rocks. I understand, it's a living. You're trying to make a living. It's a hard life. It's back-breaking work. Even with machinery, it's back-breaking work, and it's dangerous. You are touching the birthplace of life. When you see these giant trees, they are most likely lycosites. They're not actually trees. And you are touching the birthplace of life that supports us. And I congratulate you for doing hard work, and I really would like to hear your stories. Okay, moving on. Still on this earthsanga.org, and still don't know an author, so according to scientists, the Carboniferous period, 360 to 300 million years ago, generally had a more uniform tropical and humid climate rich in carbon dioxide. Basically, there were no varying seasons, much like modern day tropical forests, and these conditions proved favorable for the first terrestrial vascular plants. They didn't have to depend on algae or photosynthesize. They were our very first real forests, the vast swamps of forests dominated by club moss trees. And it's mentioning some other stuff, but we're not moving on yet. And another thing that was coming into play at this time was one of my favorite insects, dragonflies. And I'm going to mention that many cities around the world spray for mosquitoes. If they would stop spraying for mosquitoes and make habitats for dragonflies, A, they could stop poisoning our earth, and B, they could have beautiful colors, red, green, blue, brown, OD green, bright purple, bright fuchsia. Dragonflies come in wonderful colors, lots of wonderful colors, and they are beneficial. Damselflies also. But if you're spraying for mosquitoes, you're killing what they eat, and you may very well be killing the dragonflies and the damselflies, so we need to stop that. Side note. So, we had, imagine the earth covered in a bubble. And this bubble was a solid layer, thick with ozone probably, trapping greenhouse gases, everything we're told not to do. And during that time, the earth was warm, it was pleasant, it supported life, and even the smallest plants now, the lycopodiums, were 100-foot tall trees. And climate changes, the world changes, the conditions change. Not as many volcanoes, not as many gases, not as much closure, not as much heat trapped, not as much tropical weather. But it was a cycle. So if you're going on about global warming, I hear you, but I don't support your theories. The earth goes through cycles, and if we're ready for a tropical one, bring it. I would much rather have a tropical reality than a desert one. So quit spraying crap, let plants grow, and let it do its own cycle. Stop worrying. If we eliminate all the carbon dioxide, try to remove it from the atmosphere and trap it, we are putting off something that is a natural occurrence. We're messing with nature. And if you're doing that, you're a moron. Top of the ranks, Bill Gates, moron. Always climate change harping, right? The man can make money, but he can't make common sense, because the plants on this earth were taller and richer and more vibrant than he or any of us will ever imagine. And he never wants it again because he wants to pave everything over. He tells you he doesn't want to, but he wants to own all the land, and he wants all the plants to be his, and to coat them with his chemicals, and to build circuit boards to poison the earth. Are we wrong? No. He probably hates me for this. He probably wants to sue me for this. And you know what? If he's got nothing better to do than to sue somebody for having an opinion, more power to him. When he gets done screwing everything up, the earth will shake us off like fleas. I promise you. So back to the leucocytes. Glaciers that appeared north near the South Pole spread. It got cooler and drier as the climate changed. The first forests were buried under soil, and due to the heat and the pressure, were turned into coals. That's what the page says here. Page says there were no lignin-eating fungi. They did not appear till much later. Thus, dead trees didn't decay. Instead, they accumulated deep in the soil. They became a rich supply of coal that fueled and successed our modern civilization. They weren't there. I wasn't there. Who knows what fungi was doing? There were giant mushrooms. They were as tall as trees too. So maybe he's right. Maybe he's wrong. But everything breaks everything down now, and all those wonderful things and processes make beautiful soil. Carbon is good. Let it exist and let it become its natural structure. Quit trying to take carbon dioxide out of the air. Let the world do its cycles. Quit trying to make rain. Whatever else they're doing. So, I'm going through here. Going through this page, this fella just goes on and on about, or woman goes on and on about their opinions, and I'm still looking for some pictures and stuff. All right, we've got a Diphastrium digitatum, common running cedar, common running pine. If you got a plant that looks sort of like a pine that's on the ground, like a trailing pine, that's what that is, and they are beautiful. They are a lycocyte. There's some nice pictures here. I haven't looked at this site, so I'm going through it with you. The common ground pine, and then it's got these big cones that are going to release these beautiful spores. Some great pictures on this site. And Hoopazaria lucidora. Man, I'm not very good at this. A picture of that and more comments about what we think. And I'm still looking. Okay, finally, and I bet that was loud. I'm sorry. Written by Lisa Bright, Bright. Has a Facebook, an X, and an N account. Great. And you can comment, and there's comments in here and different links and stuff that you can check out. Let's see here. Northern Virginia. So another Virginia link. Evidently Virginia is very much into leucocytes. So I'm looking for links that don't have to do with body massages. Somebody spammed the daylights out of this. Okay, so that's what I found, and I'm going to try to go somewhere else and get a little bit of different perspective, because just Virginia is what I'm finding. An article from July 10th, 2019 appears on my search, Living Fossils, plants, Digital Atlas of Ancient Life, .org. So we're going there, and let's see if we have an author. This is got a banner on the top about Paleontological Research Institution. So looks like this is going to be a really good site talking about plants, living fossils, and I'm trying to find Lycopodium, and you also can go to the mosses in here. And odds are I will be back on this site for some other information. This is great. Different dates again. The Silurian period, 425 million years ago. Became extremely diverse in late Carboniferous period, 323 to 298 million years ago. Notice a theme here. Everybody has a different opinion on when this happened, but the 100-foot tall lycopods are absolutely listed, and 1,300 living species, club mosses, spike mosses, quillworts, slow-growing plants in forest forests and wetlands. Okay, so another great site, and there is a fossil image here of a horsetail. So shows the root of, and it's got dots in it. So if you've been to mine and you found one of these large stone, look like tree with some kind of dots in it, you're actually looking at the root of horsetail. Great site. Polypodophyta, the horsetails. So just brushing in these to let you know that they exist, and lots more fossil record in here. And then they're moving on beyond my lycophytes. So yes, a wonderful site. I'll be back to it. If you want to beat me to it and kind of check it out, go right ahead. I am really, really interested in seeing this. So I'm going to do a different search. We know that lycocytes are conifers in a sense, definitely perennials, and I'm trying to find a connection there to see if there's anybody that said anything, and that takes me a different place, so we don't want to do that. Okay, so I put in lycocytes and perennial. And again, it's wanting to change my words. Love AI, and it says absolutely nothing in here. So let's put in perennial, and this way you get to know how I do searches. Perennial and club mosses. So for people that want to go through this, and evergreen plants, maybe I should use the word evergreen because it's not really a conifer, right? So websites I've been into, and I'm going to pass on the Britannica. Everybody can go there. Okay, another organization. So we are going to the Joyce Kilmer slickrock.org and see what we have here. The partners of Joyce Kilmer Slick Rock Wilderness. Nice little page here. Brown, earth tones, like earth tones. Can plants have allies? Introducing club mosses. Oh, I hope they go into some of the things that we want to talk about, because they don't really talk about why they're an ally. So they're considered a fern ally, and of course we'll talk about ferns later. So lycocytes, they're saying 1,200 species. So we know, or 1,200 or 1,300, somewhere in there. I guarantee you they're wrong. They're more. They just haven't found them yet. Come on, get real. So, major players in coal forests, we know this, and the dates are pretty close, so you know that. But you can go through here and read about it. It says, bring a hand lens or a magnifying glass with you and get ready to closely examine these interesting plants. The most common club mosses you will find along a trail and the hillsides is shining club moss. Its Latin name, Hoopzaria lucidula. They remind me of brilliantly green bottle brushes. And that's a very pretty plant, so imagine a bottle brush, but it's green. It's vibrantly green, and it's only a few inches tall, maybe. You often find them growing in a group forming ground cover. Very important. They prefer hemlock woods, so it's hard to say what will happen now that the hemlock woolly ADELGID adelgid has decimated the hemlocks. So hemlock trees support the ground, changing the acidity of the soil, and then the shiny club moss grows even more vividly, producing life and ground cover for those hemlocks. But we have this invasive caterpillar, I believe, going in here and doing damage. They also grow in varied cover forests, cove forests, so I'm hopeful they will continue to see them along trail. I think they're talking about the Pacific Northwest, people. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. You get into there and let me know. Then there's club mosses that look like little spruce Christmas tree, about 4 inches to 9 inches tall. Frequent species. Its common name is flat branch ground pine, which is a very nice description of this plant itself. The fancy name is Lycopodium obscurum. Obscurum. You don't see it very often. Isn't that wonderful to have a little note like that? Oh, and the pictures. Whoever took the pictures on this page, props to them. These are beautiful. So we're going the third club moss family member you'll find in drier, more exposed sites. So not always wet. Let's see. So this trail was burned in 2016, and because of that, it had room to grow. The Diaphostratum trichium, or simply ground cedar. Yes, the ground cedar. Southern running cedar, which can also be found in the western North Carolina. So this is in the Carolinas. The description was making me feel like it was Pacific Northwest. But yeah, there's places in North Carolina. It's not all East Coast plants, though. They're everywhere. So look around, you'll see. And this is talking about the Great Smoky Mountains. So again, they've got Facebook and X and N, and I'm not sure what this other one is, but I'm not going to click it, and I don't do social media much, so you'll have to forgive me and check it out yourself. So the Kilmer-Slick Rock Wilderness. Man, I wish I had a map. I'm going to have to search. So this is where copy link text. That's what I did, and then I just kind of paste it in, and now I'm going to search, and I'm going to maps on Google. So I should have just done it in Chrome just once. Okay, so it's going to Google Maps, and I just want to see roughly where this is located at, and that way I can share with you. By the way, in Google Maps are more beautiful pictures. Maybe you need to add some lycosites in there if it hasn't been done. Okay, here is the bad news. Where is this great forest? It is above the Wolf Laurel Trailhead. It is west of the Joyce Kilmer Memorial Forest in Chio Ranger. It is northwest North Carolina, and I'm trying to find Um, oh my, I'm trying to find a good description. Yeah, I'm trying to find anything that gives us a town, a city, something close. Was this affected? This could be devastating. They may need actual donations for real. Because they are not far from the Tennessee border. Bob Stratton Bald Children's Camp. And I'm still looking here to try to see Jake Best Campground, Indian Boundary Recreation Area. This whole area is possibly affected by stuff. Let's see here. So there's the wilderness directions, and I'm going to get these directions from Asheville, North Carolina. Okay, 2 hours 34 minutes west of Asheville, North Carolina on 74. This was affected. I'm saddened right now. You're getting it as I get it. So, if you would, go to the Joyce Kilmer slickrock.org, and if they have a donation page, need to find out how much damage has happened here. If it's damaged, we need to try to either donate some time or donate some money to get them to reestablish anything that was lost. That is a very important resource. Lycosites, like I said, they're their connection to the earth. Well, I really wanted to be upbeat on this and kind of get away from the Hurricane Helene story. So let me try one more thing. Pacific North. And if I could spell, I would get it. Pacific North West Washington, and in quotes so that we get it, Clubmosses, because I know they're up there, and it gets us somewhere else for a minute. Okay. http://science helihosting.com something or another. This is Paul Slichter, I believe, and Diaphastrum sichense. Wildflower, so they're saying wildflowers west of Cascade Mountains, Oregon, and Washington. Lycopodium. Okay, so let's just see what he has here. This is a very short website. We have prickly tree club moss, Dendrocyclopodium, Dendrobium synonyms, Lycopodium dendroidium, Lycopodium obscurum. It's a variety of that. So, hey, a link from there in the Pacific Northwest to North Carolina. Are the varieties exact? Are they similar? Do we need samples to restore anywhere in North Carolina? Alpine club moss, Diaphastrium alpinium, Lycopodium alpinium is the synonym. We've got ground cedar again, Alaska club moss, Sitka club moss, Diastradium sitchense, Lycopodium sabinifolium is a synonym. There's more synonyms. Just come and check this out. This is a very short little page. If you ever wanted a web page that was made for you, you can email this guy, ask him questions, I'm sure. But there are other varieties of club moss. So let me try to get this again. science.halleyhosting.com, spelled HALLEYHOSTING.com/nature/plants/club moss/Lycopodiaceae, spelled LYCOPODIACEAE.html, or just look up Paul Slichter, and I think you will find him. His name is spelled Paul, last name CLICHTER, and he has a very simple, very short little web page with a volume of names, common and scientific. That's a great place to end. You need to get familiar with this perennial. Lycosites are important. They are your connection to the earth. I am the navigator. I have crash landed somewhere in the Pacific Northwest on this episode. So, please share, like, subscribe. And if you are a miner or anybody that's went spelunking and found an interesting tree formation, please share in the comments. I would love to know.